Welcome to our July version of our Kentucky K-12 CIO EdTech Leaders webcast. I'm David Couch with the Kentucky Department of Education. Thanks for joining us here on what's going to be a hot day in Kentucky to go over a variety of items. We also have Go Soapbox open for have a couple of poll questions there, and any kind of thing you have that you want to talk about can bubble up. Um, this is a monthly meeting that we have. It's unique in the United States where this occurs with the Department of Education and the districts and it's all of its partners. But I think it's worked out well for us throughout the years. So we have all of our district ed tech leaders joining us. So by teams, we have folks, our partners that are joining us by our KD Media Portal. So thanks again for joining us this morning. And I sent the agenda out yesterday along with a summary of June. And we always put those, by the way, a copy of every webcast along with a written summary is in our KD Media Portal for you to cut and paste from. So let's go ahead and get started with the first item on our agenda. We mentioned last month that we would be presenting to you our annual Kentucky K-12 KETS operational budget for the next school year. There's a requirement by law that we do that once a year, law that came out in 1990. And we every 6 years, we identify the technology need, and that's in our master plan for education technology. And then annually, we identify all the funding sources that can go toward that need. But our Kentucky Board of Education is only required to approve one of those sources, the KETS funds, but we make them aware of all the other funding sources. And I always use that opportunity once a year to educate our board on the health of education technology in our state, along with the finances. That include the finances, and that health includes the infographic that I'm going to show you real quickly, an update on our KETS historic timeline. We go into the details of the budget, where the money is going for all the money, whether it be federal, state, or local funds going to education technology. And like I say, this is something we present once a year. So we have all of our staff that are heavily involved in this process, but you all are well, because the data that you provide is used in the technology activity report, the digital readiness report, is used for a variety of things throughout the year. This is one of them. This is one of the main ones. We also use it during the legislative session as well as probably 10 other things. And I'm going to share with you the documents that we share with our board. Let's say Mike Lettingham and his team, along with all of our offices, play a big role in this process. So let me bring up the staff note, as we call it in the Department of Education. Let me know when you can see it.
See it, David.
Okay, thank you for the feedback there. So this is something that folks that are new to the Office of Education Technology or new to a district, or just a reminder, this is something, there's a little write-up that goes before the board, typically a month ahead of time before they meet. Local school boards may have a shorter or longer time before that's occurring. And you kind of say, what's the bottom line issue, along with some other background that's associated with it. So bottom line issue for our board is they got to approve $15.4 million in KETS funds this year. And we also talk about in the note that it's, like I said, the background, that we're the pioneer national leader in most aspects. We always try to highlight that. And this is for y'all's purpose, benefit as well, is to educate you on all the funding sources that are available. So there's $15.4 million in KETS funds, and we'll show you what those funds are used for here in a moment. But then there's another $427 million-ish, it's a little bit above that, that's been identified out of federal, state, and local funds that we have identified also going to education technology throughout Kentucky K-12 public schools for the next school year. A good number of that is empirical data that we actually collect from the different offices in the Department of Education, along with our office, along with the technology activity report the districts provide, all 171 districts provide us. We also want to use this opportunity, and you kind of can see here, to educate our board and educate you all of this massive funding cliff that we're all getting ready to hit in education technology funding. And I'm going to show you some empirical data that before the pandemic funding, and our anticipation during the pandemic funding, and then the post-pandemic funding is anticipated. It's anticipated to be $200 million less per year and drop down to pre-pandemic levels, which was problematic because you see this dollar figure right here. The pre-pandemic levels of funding we got in education technology was $100 to $140 million less than the minimum amount that we have identified that's been needed annually in the education technology master plan, the budget for it in our master plan. So we always want to take this opportunity to make you all aware, and you'll see for our board of education is to get on their radar screen to make it one of their top funding requests going forward. And our funding request is to bring it up from $15.4 million per year to at least $30 million per year to help address this major upcoming funding cliff situation, and also to address the massive budget cuts that we have sustained in the cuts funding really since 2003, mainly started in 2006. We used to be 24.5 million. It has dipped that much. And so other things have taken its place as every time we've tried to get the cuts funds, which benefit all 171 school districts, something has always happened to take its place through the funding process. And we've been pretty successful lately on making it a Kentucky Board of Education priority, actually having it in the governor's budget. Our big push will be to try to get it in the House and Senate to get them, along with the other things they're trying to balance, to get it funded. So the recommendation they'll be before our board, and I try not to confuse them too much, and you all present to boards too. The bottom line thing is they got to approve 15.4 and just release those funds. But also I want to use it as an educational opportunity for they're aware of our financial situation. So this is a pretty good history for our OET staff and for our district CIOs, and also for all of our CETS partners that we have out there. And the CETS partners are state agencies and vendors. You can see before the pandemic, this is where we were at with annual funding. And, as the pandemic went on, is a lot of money. And we are very grateful to that. Discretionary money here in the Department of Education, and we were able to convince the different offices and the Commissioner's office and our board to have that discretionary funds go toward education technology that services all school districts and the agency, because for the most part, we use the same exact thing here that we ask our school districts to use. And so a lot of the discretionary funds, and even within districts, a lot of discretionary funds went toward education technology, refreshing in devices, expanding in devices and computers. So they went one-to-one down to early grades and elementary, refreshing the network environment, digital learning coaches that were out there, and seeing the great benefit of that, along with a wide variety of shared services that we provided at the state level that we hadn't provided before, and definitely not in that mass, or hadn't been able to provide for quite some time. So once again, this is where we were, which is, if you take a look, what we needed is we need roughly $373 million per year annually. And that's a very conservative number of what it takes to operate, maintain, and do incremental upgrades, not aggressively, but conservatively. And you can see how that number will drop, and we're already starting to drop. And we knew this would be our peak number. And I told folks quite a bit about that. And then, we hung pretty close to that last year. Not devastating this year, but we're going to see big drops starting happening in 25, 26, and 26, 27. So that's why you're seeing me use this opportunity to our board to try to get that on their radar screen. And this goes back to the process. This past board, was a top 6 priority. And our goal for the future board is to make it a top 5 and even a top priority if we can going forward. And obviously, there has to be heavy lobbying to the legislature to help make that happen. That lobbying occurs through you all as well, through districts. It's probably our biggest lobbyist, the one that makes the most difference if it comes from you all. Obviously, the Department of Education will approach the legislature and the governor's office. So we can't hire lobbyists, which does put us at a significant disadvantage. The Department of Education is not permitted to hire lobbyists. So we have to count on a lot of other people helping out with that. But hopefully our vendor partners can help out with that as well. And that's why we're sharing this with our vendor partners and our state agency partners. We need everyone to help us out with it. So here I'm talking about it, making it a top 5 priority. Without doing that, it's effectively acknowledging that CATS will not be provisioned with the resources necessary to make it reliable and capable and quality as it has been for a long time. This is the kind of things we talk about, and you'll see that in our budget of trying to restore the cuts, close to $10 million in cuts over the past 14 years. And be honest with you, it's not anybody picking on CATS. All of state agencies were massively cut as we went through the home mortgage crisis. We went through other major revenue shortfalls over the years. So every part of the Department of Education was cut massively. And having been around here since 1992, the amount of personnel dropped here at the Department of Education is just massive. The reason I mention that is just to say it wasn't anybody saying, technology-wise, we're not doing good stuff. Most people recognize that we have been. It's just that we took our lumps along with everyone else. The other part is, you'll see it in our budget, there's this $1.6 million to pay at the state level for Infinite Campus. And there's always a struggle with any kind of environment, whether your personal environment, you people you deal with, or your school environment in the technology realm, of not understanding the ongoing costs that are associated with technology. They'll typically be 99% focused on what it costs to buy it and not understanding it requires costs to maintain it. And this $1.6 million was not funded by the legislature when it funded the move with the transition we made from STI to Infinite Campus. They did not include a funding source to pay for that ongoing costs. So we have been paying for it through a method that is not a financial solid way to do it. It hurts our offers of assistance to districts because we have to do it that way. We would rather get the funding to pay the 1.6 and the rebates that we get back, because we got to take a part of the federal E-rate rebate and pay for that, because there's absolutely zero other funding source to pay for that. And it's along with some other basic, cost of living increases that we have with the services that we pay for at the state level. And all these costs go up incrementally, and we've not got a cost of living increase for any of these services since 1992. And there's only so long you can go on with that. So this is kind of laying that out, and of the need for that. And also we have the Computer Science Information Technology Academy for all school districts. We've had that for about 15 years. Provides a wide range of certifications that are very marketable for students. Once they graduate, we team with the Office of Career and Technical Education for that, along with our focus on computer science and coding, which is mainly our focus there. And we're just trying to get it raised back up to its original $800,000 per year. It got caught up in the incremental cuts that we have in the department for the past 14 years. And the third reason is, the pandemic. It really had, we were able to accelerate goals that we've had for quite some time: a better student to computer ratio, digital learning coaches, services like online registration, which make it a much better experience for both the parents and the school for the beginning of the school year by being able to do all that way ahead of time online. So it's just a way to educate you all, some of our brand new OET staff, Some of our brand new CEOs, some may be been around just for a year or two, just a good reminder, or those been around for a while of why this is so important. As I always say, a plan, without funding is a hallucination. Um, and so you always need the funding. You need to go to the battle for that to get the funding to put it in place and to sustain it if you want it to be high quality over a period of time. This portion of the summary of the issue, we just go through and give some basics to our board. If you've been around CATS any period of time, you kind of are familiar with these basics. These are the 3 ways that we get data back from you all, or the things that you have to do by law. Districts are required to do a district technology plan. The digital readiness feedback, we're going to talk about these 2 because I think we opened up one of these on the 15th of July yesterday. And the technology activity report, all these play a role in what's presented to the board, as I mentioned earlier. We get that directly from you all. And this is just some of our descriptions of the why. If you're not familiar, in Appendix H of our CATS master plan has the annual budget request, and you'll see the $373 million in there. Go through the 9 parts, or the 8 parts of our main part of our master plan. Just a reminder, we attach the timeline. I'm going to go through a couple of changes that we made to that. We try to update that every 6 months. And then list the laws and regs that are associated with that. And also what we do to get feedback from folks. So this is the process that before we give out a CATS offer assistance, which Mike Lettingham will talk about a little bit more about our first CATS offer, it goes through this first step every year. And then probably a month later, it's presented to the School Facility Construction Commission, who actually has been an awesome partner for us for one of our Stillwell Award winners for helping with this legislature, folks keeping what I call the big eye when they see the money in the bank account, not grabbing it and trying to use it for something else. Because the nice part about those funds is they can they don't lapse at the end of a fiscal year, so you can do smart governmental spending versus trying to rush and spend a bunch of money at the end of a fiscal year. Makes a lot of sense. So they also help us out and actually distribute the money to school districts, and that's really worked out well. And that started out back in the 1990s. Then we go through verifying you meet all the requirements, and part 1 of those requirements is, as I mentioned, technology plan and digital readiness, technology activity reports, and then the feedback all play a role in that. Verifies your final ADA because we distribute based upon average daily attendance. We calculate what that is based upon what it is per student, and then we divvy it out. And we usually have 2 offers. One through the CATS funds, the $15.4 million. And the other part will come through the E-rate rebates that we get. And you'll see that here in just a minute for those that are new to it, or just a good reminder. So as it breaks out, there's $15.4 million in CATS funds, and there's $427.7 million in other funds that we anticipate going toward it, and we'll show you how that breaks out. And these are the groups that we consult regularly on. This was the development of the master plan itself that identify the technology need. And we regularly also use this opportunity, just not the need, but make folks aware of all the financing. So all these kind of folks are invited to, and we try to go out and educate them. Like our educational cooperators have been invited to this meeting. Our vendor partners have been invited to this meeting. I educate every part of the department. We have a technology planning council, which has a representative of every Kentucky Department of Education office. We usually meet monthly. And so I educate them on that. So the next time we meet, this will be one of the things I educate them on, along with a couple other things. And KISTI, of course, a great partner with that. Now this is with you all and the superintendents. So that's the as staff note that we share. I'm going to share a couple of the documents that go along with that. Tell me when you can see it. This is our infographic. This goes as part of the package.
Got it, David.
Got it, David.
Okay, thank you. So this is something we shared with you before. I'm not to go in detail, but once again, the people that have been hired recently, this is something that we try to take the data that we received and put it in graphical form. And this is my way to educate our board on the health and just the environment that we have in Kentucky K-12, which includes all districts, Kentucky School Deaf and Blind, the 51 area technology centers, and KDD agency. And I use this for a variety of other things. Just use this in the Kentucky Digital Summit to educate some folks about where we're at in K-12. And we get this through feedback through a variety of other means. And then we're looking at modernizing some of these means, by the way. Seems like Marty has mentioned that before. And we always talk about different perspectives, the parent perspective, the student perspective, the teacher perspective. This is always an interesting one of how parents get the information the most. Always had good data quality, always trying to get better at that. Data counters, and talk about that here in just a little bit. All the things we do in data, just not data quality. I've had good success with digital learning coaches, and we definitely want that to continue on. And so I do get worried about or concerned about the funding and the impact it could have on those types of positions and districts. And update the end devices, the types of end devices that are out there and the percentage of them. I use a lot, and even use this in our recent meeting that Mike Ledingham will talk to you about when we met with our CETS partners, which we do annually. And I was in another meeting, and folks were surprised, and they apparently don't keep up with K-12 too much, of how much the Chromebooks are growing in K-12, and it's not going to go back to a lower number. That's only going to increase and not get smaller. And it's been on a steady increasing path for quite some time, while the others have been decreasing as well. And just the transition to mobile devices versus desktop, making them aware of that in our virtual environment, along with how the CETS offers have done over a period of time. We've been pretty heroic, and you can see, at one time, and this is just the impact of the cuts we've received. And as I said, it used to be 24.5 million with the CETS funding, and we've been hanging on here for a period of time, and trying to keep it from going down in here. And the top 5 feedback we get from districts, 171 districts regularly in the top 5, and the top 5 of the top 5 is the CETS offers being high. And so you got to have the CETS budget up there and not continuing dealing with cost of living increases and not having something to help pay for those. The CETS timeline is also part of what we submit to the board. I use this a lot to educate folks, because especially new folks coming into the senior leadership positions in state government, whether it's legislative or others, don't really realize Kentucky is a pioneer and national leader. And I'd say we always try to get better, but they suggest a lot of things that we already have in place and are functioning incredibly well. And they think not only we don't have in place, but we're dead last and the worst in the country. So this I have to regularly, and I know y'all, some of you laugh at me, as I constantly am in meetings where senior leaders that you figure would know don't recognize as something as simple as all of our schools are connected to the internet. They are, you would be surprised at how surprised they are. You can't say that enough. Just not your district is connected. All of them are connected. Whenever you're talking to someone, let them know that, because if you don't, they get in front of these big audiences like we had at the Kentucky Digital Government Summit, and they say things that are just, well, it's problematic, and I have to always circle back with them and educate them on it. And so don't underestimate the importance of regularly educating folks on where we're at, and not laughing too much about me trying to educate them on it. So the things we've highlighted this year, and I know Mike and others will maybe talk about this one. Last Friday, we successfully made the transition of all 171 school districts, Kentucky School of Deaf and Blind. All the ATCs go through those same connections to from AT&T to ENA Education Network. This is something that we definitely, that we want to celebrate. We still try to get better at that one, with our Education Networks of America transition with our education network. But this is a big deal. We just did the online testing, and we highlighted that last month and even the previous month. If we're not the most successful in the country, we are in the top 5, top 3. As far as doing that and doing it consistently across all online testing. A lot of it has to do with you all in the district, obviously, with the infrastructure you have there and the commitment you have there to the content side, and then the internet we have coming from the district, and with the partners that we have picked with the online testing. And the artificial guidance, we also want to mention that just completed successfully our 30th year of STLP. That's not a brand new program. And just the recent recognition for OET in the Information Technology Hall of Fame from Government Technology Magazine that happened last month, and Lifetime Achievement Award by KISTI. So we want to recognize that. We typically, over the course of time, have done that. And then lastly is some of the details. Once again, this is the part our board has to approve every year, just the $15.4 million, but we break out what those costs are going toward. These costs have remained flat for the most part for a long time, and or they've been, but there's a steadily cut with them because the cost of living has gone up with a couple of these, which impact others. But we have cut where we've been able to cut, but running out of things to cut, to be honest with you, without impacting things massively. So then we talk about the other funding sources beyond the $15.4 million. We have $750,000 for the Computer Science and IT Academy. As you saw in my note, we want to get that back to $800K. And just as a reminder, trying to get this up to 30 million from 15.4, and at least back to the 24.5, which it was at. So when we get the E-rate rebates, we send 6.5 of that million of that to the districts. We do other infrastructure projects with about 700K. You see this one always bothers me every year, because I'd like to have another funding source that it pays for the Infinite Campus cost that wasn't funded by the legislature back in 2006 beyond this one. And so if they raise the CETS baseline, can start doing that, and that can be released for other things, mainly CETS offers of assistance. We always have a contingency funds, and in case things happen at short notice. I can remember one year this was used to quickly bring us up to our DDoS service when we had an attack that potentially would shut down every district in the state. And our partner AT&T with their DDoS service was awesome in their response time and their service. We would use that contingency until it was built into our ongoing operational cost. Interest gain, this was zero for a long time, many years, and it's finally getting back up to a healthy amount. And this is kind of Rebecca, Brad, I know you work on this. This is kind of what it was pre-pandemic timeframe and housing mortgage collapse timeframe. We could always almost get $1 of an offer from that one. So when you add the different amounts that we have there, the amount that the offers going to districts is going to be about $10.1 million, which you all have to match equally, which we get a bang for the buck there, and sometimes a 3 to 4 bang for the buck because we're taking E-rate money, getting that money back, and using that for an offer. So we're actually being able to spend that money 3 times versus just once. These are funding sources that have a short shot clock on them. These are federal funds that we are trying to get. I mentioned we spent a lot of time on our June webcast on what we're trying to do and the things we're trying to get at least one more year of funding of federal funds and getting the extension approved. We don't know yet if that's approved or not, but we're giving that at bat, and we included it here just in case it was. We also take a look at collectively the E-rate kind of things that you all have applied for at the district level. And that is projected to be $12.5 million for this next school year. We also take a look at, we call it the internet budget. This has also been cut from its original amount that it was back in 2006. Seems like that was 19.4 million at one time. It's taken the cut. And that service, obviously, internet services are used more, not less. So we always remind folks, and every time I get a chance to remind folks, we got internet to all the schools. In 2024, still having to make folks aware of that is incredibly aggravating and problematic because they're assuming that we are just not all connected. We're one of the worst in the country and not the best at it. So we'll be a chance to educate our board of what we've just put in and the speeds that are there that position us, I think, as well for the future. We also talk about the internet cybersecurity and safety requirements and the money that we use for that. There's also a certain amount of money that when a new school building is built or there's a major renovation, that money is going toward these types of things. And we estimate that at $15 million a year. And then we also take a look at the other KD program offices. And this is something unique to Kentucky versus the other 49 states. My equivalent in the other 49 states does not have a good look at the spending of school districts. They can't come up with the numbers that we have here. They don't have, for the most part, no other state has a standardized financial management system like we have across Kentucky. Maybe only one other state that has one, and it's a homegrown one, and it has limitations. And that's where we get the TAR report from. So we have a great way to get what the finances are. And I would say Kentucky is the best state in the country of all the money that's going to be spent on education technology, having a very good handle on it. But to go back is my equivalent in other states does not have good insight of all the other things that are being spent on technology-enabled initiatives beyond their office. They have like barbed wire fence and landmines where people are not. The offices don't work together. They don't share it. The really nice thing about KETS is it allows me to have the leverage to see what they're spending on that. And so I have good insight, and we're always taking a look at these other program offices using their funds. And I work with them because it's not all coming out there. If I can find another program office that has a funding source to pay ongoing costs, that's a good thing. So the Kentucky Educators Certification System and Ethics System, the KEC system, has another funding source beyond the pure technology funds. It's the teachers getting their teaching license or getting their recertification helps pay for the initial ongoing cost for that versus a new cost having to be found within the Department of Education. But when you add all those up, and we included the new SEEK system this year, that's the money, that's the system that G2O, it was just awarded to them. The money that goes to that initially put that in place in ongoing costs. So that's 16.7 million. And this is where we take a look at the other resources. We've taken a look at your TAR reports, your technology activity reports. We take a look at your spending patterns over the past year and see how they will be similar or dissimilar to the following year. So we take a look at some additional sources, and that's 332 million. Add a bunch of all those together, you get $443 million, which is, a lot, for us personally, but it's the amount of money totally that we have going toward education technology. So I haven't looked at Go Soapbox. I haven't looked at here. I was presenting. Are there any questions that folks have, or any other additional comments, Mike or team would like to
Hey,
have
David.
about that? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, one of our awesome kids cheerleaders, Stella Pollard, has some great comments that she's made in the chat. One of them I just have to call out, because when she talked about her ability to aggravate the paint off a wall of legislators, I had to chuckle out loud. But I think let me summarize Stella's comments. I think she's recognizing, as I think all of our EdTech leaders recognize, that we all, as part of the community, play a role in getting the message out, in marketing and evangelizing, with legislators. But it's challenging. I mean, obviously, we have our challenges at the KDE level. Our COs have challenges at the local level, especially with competing priorities like SEEK. So I think Stella's just kind of asking, what advice, what can they do with this information you just went through to help further the cause? Because now's the time from Stella's standpoint.
Yeah, thanks. Mike or anyone else?
So I don't think I've got anything to add, David. Obviously, any questions anybody has or clarification, obviously our field staff are pretty well versed on this. Certainly, if people need information from this to work at the local level within your district or with your legislators or other folks in the community to continue to educate and advocate on the program, we certainly want to make sure that we make that information accessible and understandable and provide clarification as needed. So I would encourage folks to do that, to continue to represent this program, and we do spend an excruciating amount of detail or time doing in the detail of making sure that we're able to speak to how everything kind of functions and operates as we do this annual plan every year, as you've spoken to. And so I just encourage folks to try to understand it to a certain degree, utilize the information. Again, if you don't understand any part of it or you need clarification, so forth, obviously channel up to us through your field engineer, your field staff. They might be able to obviously answer the question directly themselves, or they certainly can get to any of us to help provide that clarification as we go forward.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Next topic we have is cybersecurity health check. I think this is a great opportunity. I look at presenting to the board. I said the operational plan is an opportunity. Not as, oh boy, I got to do that. It's an opportunity to educate. And this is one of our best ones. It's one of the best ones for you all at district level to educate, because you have law behind you of the requirement that the board and the leader of that board and the superintendent and commissioner must be educated on it. So Bob, this is a good chance for you to remind folks. I know we regularly remind them of it, but turn it over to you to educate folks on it.
Thank you, David. And this is something, especially around this time of year, we mention this a lot, and certainly every webcast we mention it. And I think it's important for us to continue to do it, because everyone seems to find a little nugget of wisdom every time we mention it, and usually maybe we say something a little different or whatever. But this is a great opportunity, not just for you to have a reason that's set in law to figure out what systems you have in your district and what you're having to protect, but it's also a great opportunity for you to make sure that the folks who are in your district and are making decisions at whatever level might be somewhere, at the district office. It could be teachers in schools. It's a great opportunity for you to be able to educate them on what you're protecting, why you're having to protect it, why you're having to spend money, or why you need resources to protect these items that are crucial for you to go about the business of educating kids, which is kind of what we're all here for. But what I wanted to really talk about today was something just a little bit related to that. And that is some folks have reached out again saying, hey, we don't feel comfortable talking about a lot of this stuff in an open forum. And what I have replied, and I think I've sent this out from time to time. I don't know that I've sent it out as part of the default package with this, but what we do at KDE, and there's we perceive that there's law to back this up. We provide a summary, and that summary is generally public safe. And I encourage you guys, if you're doing something in a public forum of your board meeting in August or in July or whenever you get to this, if you're doing something in a public forum, provide information that's public safe and that cannot be used against the school. For example, don't provide information about how things aren't being protected. If you have an issue with, laptops being stolen or something like that, that's something that you might want to obliquely refer to, but you don't want to say, here's exactly how to break into our school and get these laptops out. Now, again, the law, and I can provide some assistance with this, I can provide information if you don't have this information handy, I think backs us up in that these health security checks, these, vulnerability assessments, if you will, can provide information that legally can be provided behind closed doors, or I think, what's called an executive session. And I can go ahead and send that information out to give you some justification for being able to do that if you think that that's something that you need to be concerned with. Because again, the information that you are collecting, what information is where? Where do you have social security numbers? How well are those systems protected? What do you wish you had in terms of security or defenses? Those are things that you might not want to provide during a public session. And if you feel as though you would have some issues providing that or justifying that information needs to go into a protected session, then we can provide some information to help you out with that, and I'll send that out. Again, you may already have it. Maybe I've sent it out 100 times already, but I can send that out and help you with that, because we definitely do not want to be helping the people who would want to do us harm, and I think that's super important. One other thing I did want to mention, and I'm going to share a little bit of information here, unless there's any questions, or David, do you want to say anything more about the security health checks? I'm going to move on to my next quick topic. Okay. I'm going to share just a couple of slides, so bear with me as I bring up presentation mode here. Can you guys see this slide? PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes,
got it.
Bob.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that confirmation. I appreciate it. So, when we look at our environment here within KETS, generally we think about our Kentucky K-12 environment, and whatever happens in there can impact all of us. So if one district has a problem, it can actually impact a lot of districts. DDoS attacks are an example of that. But I also want to put out the idea, and frankly the fact, that whatever happens in general in terms of security across the nation can impact KETS and KETS K-12, and we need to be very cognizant of that. And so I wanted to throw out a few data breach figures that I've seen over the past couple of months, and this is really just in 2024. And there have been a ton of data breaches, major data breaches in 2024 so far. And what scares me about this, a couple of things. One, the number of records, the number of individual records being exposed is huge. And so that might expose additional information about us. Robert Hackworth, I'm not just someone who works at the Kentucky Department of Education. I'm also someone who banks at, a credit union. I'm also someone who has an Amazon account. I'm also someone who, shops at Lowe's and Home Depot. So anytime there's a data breach, more information about me is provided to cyber criminals so that they can create a better profile of who I am and figure out how to attack me more better. Can I say more better? I kind of hate to do that, but it really kind of fits. So the other side of this is that if we have teachers and staff and other folks who use their KETS email addresses to sign up for different accounts on Amazon and Best Buy and Trello and all of these different services, then that really provides a really good direct line for that person to be compromised by cyber criminals, especially when all these data breaches take place and passwords are exposed and so on and so forth. And so I wanted to just kind of go through some of the major data breaches that I've seen here recently, one of them being the Snowflake data breach. Snowflake is a cloud provider, and they have a lot of different organizations and companies that use them, similar to how we use Microsoft for OneDrive and Amazon for not Amazon, but Google, especially for Google Drive. And so you've got Los Angeles Unified School District. I put this one up front, even though they didn't lose the most records, but they had 26 million records with student information, teachers, staff, information exposed. Ticketmaster, you may have heard about that, 560 million customers' records. Advance Auto Parts, 380 million customer profiles, including orders, which might include things like, what you bought, why you bought, how you bought it, and purchase information. Loyalty gas cards, which can provide a lot of PI. If you think about what all is connected to your Kroger card, for example, and your Speedway card, that sort of thing. Banking firm, 30 million customers, and then Lending Tree, Pure Storage, Neiman Marcus, all these different things we don't think about on a daily basis. But when a large company that provides those smaller companies technical help gets breached and has a security incident as large as this, then all of our information, whatever we've stored with them, goes out there. And so let's keep moving down this list really quickly. There is a small information broker in Florida, and I'll repeat, small. They're a minor player. So whenever you do a search for someone online, like if you quote Google or do a web search for someone you think is interesting, like Robert Hackworth, because Robert Hackworth's a pretty interesting guy, you might say, tell me more about this Robert Hackworth guy. Then it will go out to these information brokers and pull information up. And, you might get a little bit of that information for free, but if you pay some more information, you can get things like, has Robert Hackworth been arrested in the past 12 months? And hopefully no one's looking for that information, by the way. That's some security humor there. I haven't been arrested in the past 12 months, but I wanted to throw that out there. So, but you kind of get where I'm going with that. So again, this is a small information broker. 2.9 billion records from around 300 million, I forgot the million people there, mostly US citizens. Full names, current past addresses, info about parents, siblings, other relatives, including deceased relatives, social security numbers for all the above, arrest records, stuff like that. And this is a small information broker. And so all of that information is now in the hands of cyber criminals, which is just amazing. And so let's go on to the next one. And this is the last slide I'm going to share because I think the point's pretty clear here. Change Healthcare prescription processor. Maybe a third of all Americans were impacted by this data breach, according to the United Health Group CEO. That's amazing. A third of Americans. AT&T has had 2 data breaches so far this year. The first one, 70 million current and former customers lost information, cell phone records, PI, stuff like that. The second one, records of calls and texts and cell tower location data from nearly every AT&T customer, that's tens of millions of people, for a 6-month period in 2022. And we're only finding out about it now because the federal government thought it was so important they asked for the disclosure of this to be delayed twice, so they could look into it and see what the security implications were at different levels of our federal government, which is pretty amazing. And then lastly, I just threw a bunch of stuff out here. Loan Depot, Equilend, those are financial groups. Omni Hotels, if you stayed in one of those. Trello, Spoutable, which is a kind of a Twitter clone. Frontier Communications, lots of U.S. local governments, smaller city-style governments. All of these things have combined for millions of more data breaches and millions of more records exposed. And so when those get exposed, if you've got passwords that are in there that weren't encrypted or weren't encrypted well, and you've got those connected with email accounts that cyber scammers can connect with Kentucky Cats accounts somehow, or people who work in Kentucky Cats, then that makes it a lot easier for us to get compromised, or for cyber scammers to target us with very targeted, convincing phishes. So what do we do with all this? This is why we've been doing MFA. This is why we don't like for people to use their Cats accounts for personal things, because that just makes it a lot easier. This is why we're having to really up the level of security that we have. And again, we can't go in there and tell AT&T to do better and to point out where they're doing things wrong and say, okay, here's what you do better. But we can protect ourselves more. We can somewhat vote with our dollar if we decide, hey, I'm tired of dealing with AT&T's data breaches, I want to go somewhere else. So kind of keep that in mind as well. And when you sign up for services, check and see what their security is like. When you're going to go to a new bank, or when you're going to, talk to your bank or your tax preparer, ask them what their security services are. As a district, if you've got a tax preparer that you work with, or a bank that your district works with, you're the CIO, you're also the CISO a lot of times. Ask to be invited in there, or just go and find out how your bank's security is. Is it up to snuff? Is it at least as good as you expect your own district's security to be when it comes to cybersecurity? If it isn't, add that into your cybersecurity health check, because that is a huge component of what your district works with every year. And that's something that your folks need to be knowledgeable about. Your superintendents, your principals, they all need to be knowledgeable about how these different partners are working. And so I highly encourage you to think about that broader ecosystem that you've got with your district and how it can be improved from a cybersecurity standpoint. So I'm going to kind of close out with that. And David, thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Bob. Always appreciate. And everybody get that cybersecurity health check going across the finish line. I know we're supposed to be done with ours here in July, Bob. So I know we're walking the talk too. Marty, I know you just part of a presentation with another group about the small amendment, and we've talked about this pretty extensively in the past when the amendment was when the regulation was put in place. Really, this is assessment accountability kind of amendment. They're leading that discussion and will be for our board meeting, but just mainly as a FYI that'll be one of the other items that'll be presented to the local superintendent's advisory council and to our Kentucky Board of Education because it's being amended. Any other quick words of wisdom or info about this, Marty?
No, the presentation that our Office of Assessment Accountability led with the School Curriculum Assessment and Accountability Committee, the SCAC, formerly known as, went very well and smooth. Members didn't really have any additional questions. That made sense, which was good. The one new thing, as David mentioned, is how students enrolled in these programs will be tagged into an accountable school. Again, one new thing, which the majority of our programs are already doing. And so that's the one new thing. There's a clarification and an emphasis also included that will present along with OAA and our Office of Teaching and Learning and the other offices in KDE, which this all matters to. So thanks, David.
Thank you, Marty. Dee Dee Connor, who is our Chief Data Officer and Division Director here in the Office of Education Technology, is going to give us a data systems update on a variety of topics. And then we have 3 Go Soapbox questions related to her topic as well. Go ahead, Dee Dee.
Thanks, David. Yes, just a quick update on the school report card suite. It is going to be all new this year. We have a new vendor for ANLAR, and ANLAR will be doing the dashboard portion of that school report card suite. We will have a URL change, so there will be some needed updates when we get to that point for you all to do your local websites, because the school report card is supposed to be linked on the school on the local websites too. We have preliminary data, preliminary information went out yesterday to superintendents, DACs, school report card contacts. So if you haven't already seen that, we are keeping the school report card resource page updated so that it does have information on it, on all the communications and the resources available, and it'll be updated as things go out. Mid-September is when the approval and collector tool is going to open. It's going to open to districts and school staff to start entering data and start verifying data. What we're encouraging folks is not to wait until then to start looking at the data quality. Start now looking at the data and the quality of that data, because that will help with your assessment and accountability work. Assessment and accountability is going to come out in data sets this year. It'll come out first in October. I think it's going to be early October that it's going to roll out in data sets. The Office of Assessment and Accountability will work with the district assessment coordinators to review that data prior to the release. And then it will be available in the dashboard view when that goes live in November. So everything's a little bit delayed this year. Federal requirements do not require this to be the school report card to be published until the end of the year. So we've still got plenty of time. It's just a little bit outside the norm for our normal schedule. So just a reminder, the school report card suite is a combination of the school report card dashboards that Bright Bytes previously did, and now ANLAR is going to be doing. The open house supplemental data set that has all this historical school report card data sets on there too. And also the parent portal and this campus portal for the parents, students, and faculty use. Those components are all part what we consider the school report card suite. So it's important to think of it in a bigger picture and not think about it as just one component and not the others. So we do have some other collections that are coming up, civil rights data collection. David, did you want to add anything about school report card before I went on?
I would just say, we're talking with folks about releasing it, the data as quick as they can in one of those 3 components. They don't have to wait for the dashboard or the charts and graphs. So, for example, I've talked with Rhonda Sims, who's the Associate Commissioner for Assessment Accountability, and really encourage her, and this is for our own staff to be aware of too in OET, is release the data in open house first. Put it in the files, the Excel files. That's in very much demand by schools and the media. Don't wait for it to be put in the dashboard before releasing it. So Rhonda was very open to that. And we're trying to make folks aware of the different ways they can release data early. And the charts and graphs and the dashboard is just one of those, and not to just wait to release it in that singularly. But for example, I would say every year assessment accountability data should be released in open house first. And then as time permits, it's released in the dashboard. Thanks, Dee Dee.
Thanks. We are going to have another civil rights data collection. It will open up in December of this year. It's for the 23-24 data. It seems like we just did this. And honestly, we did because they were kind of catching up after the COVID years. So keep, kind of awareness of that work on civil rights data collection. Just remind them that it's not an off year, which it would typically be every other year that they will be doing that collection. It will be due, it will close first part of March. So it's December to March timeframe. We've talked before about our Social Security number data diet, minimizing the use of it. Just going to give you a little bit of update on what KDE has done. KDE is in the process of working with Infinite Campus so that if you all enter Social Security numbers, they don't come up to KDE at all. We don't need that. We actually have our roles and permissions so that nobody can see them anyway. And that's something you can do too, very easily change your roles and permissions so that Social Security number, if it's viewable to any of your users, that you can turn that off, except for maybe a select few that may need it. And then also we're looking at trying to work with Infinite Campus to provide you options where you can go in and make choices on what Social Security numbers to remove. That maybe students that have, previously are no longer enrolled to school. They may have graduated, may have withdrawn, whatever. You could do something like that. Staff, when we talk about Social Security numbers, we're not just talking about students. We're talking about yours, mine, everybody else's that is out there, and making sure that we're keeping those safe also. So keeping only what we have to have and considering ways to further secure those that we don't necessarily need, and get rid of some of the data that we know that we're no longer going to use, so that that's not at risk. So just kind of just a little quick update on that. We do have some information on the student information system. We do have a training that's going to be happening this week, so stay tuned and help us promote that in your districts. It starts on Thursday morning at, I think, 9 or 9:30, I think 9:30. So please, pass that information along if you're not sure on that, or if you haven't registered and you'd like to. There is an opportunity for ELA credit there on our CASES training page. There are links that are available there. Infinite Campus has sent out their invoices. They sent them out in April. So if you haven't seen that, you may want to check, just make sure somebody else has. If you need another copy of it, reach out to KDE Data Request mailbox, or KDE Data Request at education.ky.gov, and we can send you a copy of that. If you do need one that's got a more updated date, some of you have reached out and said you need more, you'll need to go to Infinite Campus to request that. Ours just are the copies of what you originally got. We did publish some data standards in July, first part of July, and we're going to ask for your help, to the extent you can, to help promote the fact that there are new data standards out there. There's some updates. Our data is going to be better if we are following good data standards. And if somebody doesn't know that data standards have been refreshed, or that there even is a data standard, then we need to find ways of better communicating out there. So we're hoping you will help us with that. We are going to got a few more things. We do have some vacancies, and we don't normally say this, and we're not recruiting from your staff, but if you know people that might be looking for jobs that have data experience, may have some Infinite Campus experience, like getting in and working with data, we do have some resource management analysts 3. We've got 2 of those open, and a system consultant IT. Very short window though. They close the RMA 3s, the resource management analyst 3s, it closed on the 18th, and the system consultant closes on the 19th. So if you know somebody that might be interested, let them know to act fast. We'd like to have some more folks with experience to consider. So that's really all I have, David, but I was going to open up and share the Go Sub box questions a little bit. Let's see. All right, can you see them?
I can.
So we've got 2 of you out there that have responsibility for data standards. High five to those 2 of you. We appreciate all the rest of you helping communicate that information out. We know you have good administrators in your district, but the more voices singing the same message around the importance of data standards is always a good thing. So appreciate all of your efforts to help us with that. And we do have questions about privacy and security. This is always a common theme. You just heard Bob. You've heard me before talk about the importance of FERPA and understanding that making sure that your disclosures go out at the beginning of the year on the directory exception and the officials exception. I'm glad to see so many of you do have data security and training in place. Those of you that don't, it can be an effort, but there's some online resources available that can help you just with getting people to take some of that training. It might not be as customized to your district, but it does give you kind of good overviews of FERPA and things like that that are needed for doing the kind of work we do. And then the Social Security number question that came up. We do have some folks that are already have some efforts, ongoing efforts to reduce Social Security, and we not others that have not started. We do have one person one district that's saying they're not going to do anything, and honestly, that's a local decision. We're just helping you understand the importance of reflecting on your data collections and what is important and what is too much of a risk that maybe you need to rethink how or why you collect that. So those are the 3 questions we had, David. That's all I've got.
Edie, what was the date again on the Infinite Campus when that's due?
August 15th, the payment?
Yes.
Yes, it's August 15th. And they bill very early, and that and they do that at our request to allow you to use old year money or new year money. And we do know that it's a struggle for some of your finance officers that want a bill date that is within 30 days of payment date. But Infinite Campus doesn't expect payment until August 15th, so you've got some time.
Thanks, Dee, for all you and your team do. Appreciate it. We talked a little bit earlier about the data we collect is used for infographic. You can take K-12 infography and a variety of other things. It's also a requirement of law. We do have, I think Marty and Mike, we do have a demo, short demo of showing the tool and some of the changes in it. So we can just quickly do that.
Yeah, thank you, David. I'll give an annual plug how valuable our digital readiness work is as we've championed in the past. We do this better than other states because we work together in partnership, and that we do not view this digital readiness work necessarily as like a compliance, like checkbox thing. This is all about growth. This is how we measure progress in other big statewide initiatives like NGKI and Q's coming up. All these data can be used statewide, but also locally. And so I wanted to share just briefly, if I can, this year's digital readiness survey collection is very similar to the past. The structure is the same, a little bit different approach, but in order to streamline. But this year's digital readiness. It officially launched yesterday, which we're excited about. And as you can see, the due date, so July 15th through September 16th. Now, generally, we tag September 15th as the target due date, but due to September 15th being a Sunday, we just pulled it through to Monday. This year, when you go to the collection tool, per usual, you will see a planning sheet, and you can grab that through a Google Sheet if that's preferred by you, or in a Microsoft Excel version, both the same. But that planning sheet, I know some of you use that at local school levels to help in the inventory types of questions. We also include this year, again, the kind of the revisions and additions notes. You'll note that it is very short. And so props to our field staff team, and especially props to Ben Maynard, who leads this work for us as well, that really took a moment to get rid of some stuff that we know that we had asked or we had tried to collect for specific purposes, but we're ready to move on from. And so you'll note that the additions and revision notes is really short. Section by section, we address some of the inventory types of questions and just roll something up, specifically example in the operating, the OS question that we ask, and the connectivity question, which again, this is a more of a programmatic section. So what we break down the questions in digital readiness into two categories. One is inventory and the other is programmatic. And so check the notes for what that means. But the programmatic sections, we want you to reflect July 1, 23 through current by the time you submit. So that would be September 16th in this case for this year. Section 4, we've just a simple rename to refer to cybersecurity standards. A lot of what we're doing, as Bob just mentioned and David shared in our cybersecurity health check, we just wanted to capture that and make sure that that makes sense. We did have an additional question that we know will help us in some of our upcoming statewide implementations and projects. So there's programmatic extension questions. Again, we review these questions, and programmatic questions that are added generally are very basic questions. They're questions that you can answer in seconds. Whereas inventory type questions, we know that that's a bigger lift. And so we did not have an addition of any inventory questions this year. I know that you probably want to hit your applaud button there. In the people side, we have a clarification, a revision of a question. So it's not new. It's just a revision. Again, that's programmatic. So that should take you seconds. And then again, targeting some deletion of questions that we had asked in the past. And so we wanted to share that this process is streamlined. We're excited about it. Once you log in, you will see, you'll tap the button that gets sent to you by your CETS engineer. Again, our field staff worked very hard on this year. You tap that hyperlink and you'll log in and you will see that you can launch. And this is an example of Jefferson County's digital readiness. Once you tap to start your collection this year, you'll note that there's some data already included for you. That was a request that you've made for the last 5 years, and I think we're achieving some of that again to streamline it. And so, David, we're excited about this year's digital readiness collection. As always, this is extremely important work for us. Please view it as growth opportunities. The more detail you include, the more accuracy you include, the more it'll help you locally when you compare to other districts your size and think about moving your program forward locally as well as statewide.
Thank you, Marty. Thanks to all those that contributed to that effort. As you see, you've seen some of that what we use the data for. Mike and Chuck, mainly I'm going to ask you to give an update on our EdTech contracts, RFPs, implementations. I know NGKI and Qs would be at the very top of that. We've already talked about school report card. So I'll turn it over to Mike and Chuck. Go ahead.
So I'll real quickly run over some things, then allow other folks to jump in with anything additional. And Chuck specifically, I know is going to talk about Qs just a little bit anyway. So, we got some active procurement activities going on still yet. Professional learning management system still in that category. Internet content management RFP is still in that category. As we mentioned, we've awarded a contract for Qs, and Chuck will speak a little bit more to that. We've got an ongoing implementation with SEEK. The SEEK system, as David, you mentioned previously, with G2O. I do that every time. And then we've got ongoing work with several different initiatives, education licensure and credentialing systems, an ongoing initiative. You mentioned school report card, the charts and graphs, school report card work is ongoing. And I mentioned some of those just because they are fairly new relationships and contractual scenarios that we have in place that we're implementing or putting the components in place associated to those. I'll speak specifically to NGKI. As David, as you mentioned, we completed the transition of all districts, including KSB and KSD, last week. We will be completing the KDE agency location tomorrow. And that, for all intents and purposes, will have all locations transition to the NGKI solution provided by Education Networks of America. We will be doing some additional cleanup activity associated with this transition phase for another week or two. So I really just kind of am calling it out to the end of July, to complete that transition phase as far as some additional cleanup and verifying some things and circling back to a few things that were associated with those transitions. So, and the target there is to have everything, very stable before school starts for any individual district. And again, for the most part, that's the case with all sites that's been transitioned, but there are a few that we have to circle back to and do a few things to clean those up, which is, again, not anything unexpected. It's part of the effort. The other thing that I'll mention with that is, there's going to be the ongoing adoption and implementation of the solution overall. There's a lot of additional functionality, a lot of things that we want to make sure that we're looking at and putting in place associated to this overall solution that will occur for several months yet. So folks, will hear updates about that. They'll be introduced into new things that make them be able to know what's going on with the environment. Certainly expect that folks are going to see some improvements. And I say improvements, I really should just say enhancements around reporting and monitoring and certainly the reliability of the environment we expect to be at a high level. But we really had a good, reliable solution in place for many years. So that for the most part is not new, but the flexibility, I guess, of how we're providing the accessibility that's needed and so forth. As there's a little bit more opportunity and flexibility with this new solution that we've obviously very purposely put in place. So again, just several months yet of ongoing activity associated to the adoption and implementation of the solution. David, you mentioned obviously this is a huge accomplishment. All folks involved. I'm not going to try to mention any names, people, or so forth. I've mentioned them all at different times, but we will be doing that. As you said, we're going to bring some attention to the fact that this is a huge accomplishment, a big deal. We do feel like it puts us in a good place for the future, for the next 10 years is the way we would describe it. We've got a 10-year contractual opportunity here, and so we certainly expect that that's a good way to speak to what we've put in place here. And so we'll be providing some very specific acknowledgement, bringing some attention to that in the different opportunities and venues and different ways that we can do that. So we would encourage the districts to do that as well. So we'll be calling people out. We'll be identifying, a lot of things associated to this. But again, a few steps yet to go with the transition. All are pretty well projected as far as what's going to be involved in some of these final steps, and again some cleanup over the next week or two, and then continue the adoption and implementation over the next several months, and get a stabilized environment in place.
Mike, I know, and I do appreciate everyone to be part of it. I also want to give high fives to Bell South / AT&T, a great prime contractor for 30 years for that effort. And we're also wonderful during the transition. We've had a lot of vendors over the years, and during our vendor conference, they've been true partners in the effort. We had very few that were problems or undermining, but nearly every one of them has been very helpful. And it's tough when you lose a competitive bid, which we are required to do this one every 10 years for E-rate purposes. It's always tough with that, but I appreciate the local AT&T team, Dennis Meyer and others that they were just wonderful during this situation for them, which I'm sure to them was awful. But it's a big deal to transfer, and only people really in the technology world understand what it means to have this many moving parts transition from one provider to another with the level of success we've had. It's not 100% perfect or fine-tuned yet. We're still running into situations where we're saying, well, why is it taking that long to address something? And we're working with the prime on that one, and as they operate, and they've operated in other states, is taking a look at make sure that there's a network connectivity at high rates every minute. That's not every 5 minutes, but I know there's a pilot, Matt, maybe this is what you were going to talk about or mention, we're piloting in 10 districts with some features that you want to talk about, Matt. So I'll let you just mention that.
Yep, absolutely. So one of the things that when we went to bid, that was a requirement was to provide some network analytics and some more visibility for districts into what's going on their network. And the tool that ENA has partnered with for that is a tool called KENTIK, KENTIK, which sounds like something that was developed specifically for us, but it is not. This is a popular tool in the networking sphere that takes a look at analytics and traffic data and gives you some real-time feedback on what's happening on your network. So that is something that they're connecting right now to the Fortinet gear in every school district, and we've already identified 10 districts who will pilot that. And what that will look like is there'll be a dashboard that's going to be available to you initially in the 10 districts, and then very soon after that, hopefully coinciding really close with the start of school statewide, we will have that rolled out to all districts. And that's going to be a tile in your My ENA portal, kind of like where you go to look for bandwidth utilization now. There'll be a new tile in there called KENTIK that you can click on that will display a dashboard of like top talkers and destination IPs and things that are going on your network that you might want to dig into or troubleshoot. So that's going to be coming along here pretty quick. Yep.
And Mike, I know this is a saying that you've had, and I like it, is somewhere along the lines is, our new CAS partners make us better, but we also make them better. And even though we've done this enough over the years where they say, oh, we've done this state, it's always different in Kentucky, the size and scale, and just the environment, the power, our cloud, the power of the cloud that we have, and the product standardization. And so we always make them walk that talk, and always remind them also that the prime is responsible for the actions and behavior of their subs, and that we hold them accountable for the actions and behavior of the subs, or they got to find a new sub, or then we have to find a new prime. So it's always this is for all the vendors that we met with recently saying that. So this is going to be one of those ones to where I think we're going to make Education Networks of America and their subs better. And they're going to make us better as well.
Yeah, and the important thing there, and it's it's kind of just a good item to bring attention to when it comes to how we form these relationships and award contracts. Anytime we award new contracts to put a relationship in place to deliver any kind of a solution, a system, or service, we never expect or should expect that everything's going to be 100% perfect. It's going to be 100% everything that we need the way we need it. So we always are going to be building a relationship between ourselves, meaning the whole K through 12 environment, and the partner, and obviously the multiple companies that typically make up the partner's solution. And so, as you said, David, we're going to work together to make each other better and each other stronger, and that's part of our objective. I mean, that's part of the initiative. That's part of what we expect to do, and this will be no different than that. Just like other ones that we engage in. I mean, a lot of times I'll refer back to the Munis, early days of Munis, goes back many years, and I know that Tyler and Munis would absolutely say that we made them a much better competitive company over the years. And again, that's just part of the natural thing that's going to happen. But it's just important to acknowledge that, I think, and understand that that's part of developing that relationship. So
I would say Infinite Campus would say the same thing. The ones that we've done, they've never done it to scale, size, and moving parts. And so, and that's the prime and the subs as well.
Yep. So Chuck, Q's, you going to hit on Q's?
Yes, sir, I am, as a matter of fact. And as a matter of fact, you guys lobbed me up a great softball because on June the 20th, we were happy to report that we were able to award a contract for the Q's initiative to our newest CATS partner. That partner is Identity Automation. In awarding that contract, that will become our new CATS standard for identity and directory services. As a state-funded shared service at the baseline level, more to come. And before I jump into some details, David, I'm just happy to report that I went from saying I can't say anything about this, and now I've got a whole lot of information I've got to get out. and a whole lot of people that are anxious to hear some details. So, that being said, we did have an official kickoff meeting on July the 9th. That was really an opportunity to bring identity automation together with our team here at the Office of Education Technology. We are in the process of getting organized at the team levels as well as the different work streams. And what I mean by that is we are partnering up key members of our staff, okay, with key members from identity automation. And as an example, out of Mike Lettingham's division, our project management and architecture focus, okay, is partnered up with identity automation. Out of Matt Jury's division, all right, in the area of operations and support, all right, assigning resources, starting to work together with those folks across the aisle. Dee Dee's division, data standards and policy, all right, especially as we all know that this project will be a lot about data and data standards. And then obviously from Marty and I's perspective in field services, there's a customer enablement strand. And this is the strand that communicates and collaborates and evangelizes and prepares and educates. So through our field staff, as well as an advisory group that is currently being assembled, that I look to kick off an opportunity to talk with them in the next week or two, we're in the process of getting organized. All that being said, there are already some events we've got on a calendar where we anticipate identity automation and our staff being able to really report status out and provide some details en masse. So for example, we're working pretty closely with Rhonda, all right, Vice President of KISTI, to make sure that we've got a big splash at the KISTI Fall event, October the 25th. We're going to have an appearance at the Casbo Fall Conference, November 18th through the 22nd. Don't have a specific date in that. And then obviously at the Campus Interchange Conference in December, as well as the fact that we're talking through the possibility of a statewide webcast to give you at the district level an opportunity to see and hear from our latest CATS partner, as well as the normal cycle of regional updates, webcast updates, really any information and the best mechanism to get that out to you. Probably the most important thing right now for you to know at the district level, because this is a question we've already received, what does this mean for me right now? It means nothing. And what I mean by that is when you look at the forecasted schedule, we're looking at a 2-year implementation cycle. I would say the first 5 to 6 months since we've awarded the contract will be all in the planning and discovery phase. So there's nothing that's going to impact you for the start of school year 25, meaning this August. So there's nothing you need to do. There's nothing you need to change. Just be aware. We're going to be communicating. We're going to be communicating frequently, but we are really excited about the opportunity. We think it's going to be a great future for CATS. So as we are the pioneers, David, I would say that right now what we're in the process of doing, all right, we're saddling up the horses, packing up the wagons, and gathering supplies for an exciting journey. So that's kind of the Q's update for now.
Thanks, Chuck. And it's good to see it finally start to happen. It's been a lot of planning for a long period of time on that.
That reminds me of an episode of Wagon Train there.
Gunsmoke. Yeah. Mike, I'll just let you go over and talk about the TAR and CATS offers and our CATS vendor partner meeting.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and hit on a few final things here I wanted to speak to. The technology activity reporting, districts will get notification within the next within about the next week about our collection process for the TAR, and we'll disseminate that information out through the KEs to make sure that we're capturing and doing our review and verification process of the technology activity report, and which is the reporting on the expenditures that have occurred toward technology related items. It's a component requirement before we begin the offers of assistance, but outside of being a requirement for that, it's very important information for us to collect and be able to utilize. Similar to how we use digital readiness, it feeds into our overall reporting of the program as a whole and the things that are going on with the program. So look for that to come out. Again, within about the next week is to make sure that we're beginning that process to collect, review, and verify the technology activity report information. So that leads me into the offers. we will be within the next short while, probably within the next month, verifying our information regarding offers, points of contact, how we will be providing notice to districts about offers of assistance. So there'll be a verification process that we'll be engaged in again sometime within the next month. Not in July, but into August, early September at the latest to verify that information, and then move forward with the offers of assistance. Right now, projection of that is $21 for the year, as it has been for a few years. We've been able to sustain that. Again, David spoke to earlier when we talked about our operational plan. The ongoing efforts that we're making and that we need you all to make to be able to maintain that, and obviously to help try to grow what that offers is. We will plan on doing that offers in 2 different time periods as we've been doing. The first one would be late September, early October for that first offer, which would be $15, or let me make sure I got that right, $12. And then the second one later in the upcoming calendar year in the March, April timeframe, which would be $9 for a total of $21 for the year. So that's where we are with that right now. Obviously, if there's any things that happen that change that, we certainly, because our goal is to be able to keep those offers at minimum that level, and obviously to try to grow those, which we are looking at some opportunities to try to be able to do that. And again, we'll be sharing that information as we hopefully create some opportunity there. The other item that we wanted to mention was that we recently, just last week, had the annual vendor partnership meeting with the variety of companies that do business with K through 12 in Kentucky. Some work directly with the KETS environment through OET on behalf of all school districts to provide system services, product services. Some who work with some of our offices for technology-enabled or dependent solutions. So we had 39 companies that joined that meeting, and about twice as many people associated to those companies. So that was the number of representation. We have a few that weren't able to make it, but for the most part, all of our companies that do business, K through 12 business, any technology related in any way, shape, or form, try to join that meeting. That's our opportunity to have a conversation directly with them about things that are going on. Some of the things that we're thinking about strategically. A lot of the information will be similar to what we share throughout the different district webcasts and the venues that we talk with districts, in which those folks are able to be observers of, but they're not able to really ask questions or provide input and so forth during our district webcast. So it creates that opportunity for that, opens the door up for them to talk with each other. We encourage our partners to work and talk with each other because, again, this ecosystem that makes up the overall KETS environment, the overall K through 12 environment in Kentucky, is very dependent upon strong partners in our companies that we work with. So we certainly try to do that. And again, that meeting happened. Again, at minimum on an annual basis. Certainly, these companies attend different activities where we also engage in conversations. The KISTI conference is a great example. Work directly with districts there, STLP, and there's some other venues where that happens as well. So we encourage you to make sure the companies you're working with are aware of that, and you guys in districts are certainly conduit to those companies that you work with directly that we may not be working with on a statewide basis. So we all, have to continue that communication and activity. So anyways, just want to give an update on that occurred and it went well. And again, that'll be a regular ongoing activity.
Thanks, Mike. I'll just close out with a couple of quick comments. Artificial intelligence presentation to the Kentucky legislature happened last week by Microsoft and an organization called NASCIO, which is the CIO level of state governments. I thought it was excellent. While it's not K-12 and no K-12 organization state level participate in, I thought a lot of it applied. So I sent you the PowerPoint presentations along with being able to just listen to those 2 presenters, which both of them were outstanding. Doug Robinson was worked with KETS in his early days in the 90s, and he's now the executive director of NASCIO. And so anytime that you all would like Doug to come and talk with you at any kind of event, this event, or even I would say KISTI or others, I think Doug would be really very willing to do that, and had some great information collectively from the 50 states across the country. Encourage you to take a look at that link that I sent you. Also sent you with our summary notes a lot of our discussion on AI, that particular topic that was talked about during our CIO Summit at KISTI. We've updated our link on our KD website about district leases, particularly for technology. For those that are new or don't hardly pay attention to this topic until it applies to you, is 99% of the lease process for technology is legal. Our OE Office of Education Technology staff plays virtually close to zero role in that. The field staff and engineers play zero role in that. It is really filling out there's a legal form. Our Office of Legal and Legislative Services or Legal Services is the one that takes a look at that. Mainly it should be your legal representative that one fills that out. But we've updated the link on our website that shows that particular page. So just as a reminder, as you enter into leases and go through the approval process, it's not something you pass through your KETS engineer, and there's a generic email address that's posted on our website so it goes to the right people in KD agency that review that. And like I say, our Office of Education Technology spends virtually zero time on that. So, but we want to make you aware of that update. The last time I have is last month I talked about there's a requirement that goes in place August 1st of the test scores being required to be posted on district websites and school websites. Talked about this briefly last month. Our Office of Education Technology is not involved with that much at all, since it's really a content issue. Is the Office of Assessment Accountability should have sent information to the district assessment coordinators, DACs, about the specifics of that site. There's a font size, I think it's like 16.5. It's got to be on the landing page. The question I had for Rhonda Sims, who was the associate, does it have to be on every page of the school and district site? And the last month when someone asked that, I think I talked about this. My understanding was it didn't. And Rhonda says it may. And I didn't, to be honest with you, I wish I'd have read or replied. And some of you may have read that DAC message, but it sounded like that had changed. If it's on the banner, then it does show up in every one of your school and district pages. But just wanted you aware that may be a change. It may need to be a link to it, but confer with your DAC because your DAC would know that for sure because that information is coming from assessment accountability. That's all for the month of July. Hope you're hunkering down on this super hot day. I think it gets better tomorrow, but I'll stay around here for a little bit. Thanks for joining us for July for this edition of our CIO and EdTech Leaders webcast. Take care. Hope you have a good rest of the day.